I am so looking forward to my Thanksgiving break. What's that? It's Mr. Ex Parte calling on the Ex Parte line. Go ahead, Mr. Ex Parte.
Harold, I got some bad news from the docket cave. The MPAA just filed something in the SOC docket. We're going to have to deal with it.
Okay, well, you know, what they got?
Well, they say they finally put in some evidence, but I think they're...
Wow, it only took them 18 months.
I know. I think they're confusing 37 pages with evidence.
Well, you know, all right, so that's not too bad. Anything else?
Well, and I'm glad I'm not here to tell you this to your face, they call you a liar.
What? They call me a liar? I am offended, sir.
Apparently, they read our blog, and they saw what you said, and yeah, they call you a liar.
They watch our blog?
Yeah, you know, apparently somebody watches these.
Well, you know, I'm torn between rage and, you know, I gotta wonder though. It's MPAA, maybe. No temptations. All right, I will take care of this. Thank you, Mr. Ex Parte.
Thank you, Harold.
All right, Hollywood, it's on. I am gonna print this out, and then I will meet you in the public knowledge situation room. All right, we just moved. It's kind of new. But enough funny stuff. God knows this is a great invitation for drama. We can call each other liars. You can, you know, say nasty things about me, and yeah, that's all fine. But we don't lose track of the fundamentals here. At the end of the day, there's two basic things going on. First and foremost, the MPAA has asked the FCC to waive a rule because they say they're afraid of piracy if they put video on demand out earlier than the DVD, and that it's so worth it to get that out, they deserve to have the rule waived. Okay, we can argue about that and whether that's a good trade or not. You know, we think it undercuts the rule, we think it breaks devices because it breaks consumer expectation that this is going to have all the content that they're entitled to. You know, fine. That's what advocacy is all about. But before we can even argue whether your waiver application is worth it or not, there's a threshold question. Would giving you what you want actually make a difference about the thing you fear? I don't doubt you when you say you're afraid of piracy. I don't doubt that there's infringement that goes on. But piracy happens is not evidence. And at the end of the day, that's what this 30-page filing, when you pare away the name-calling, boils down to again. There was a critical question here. We said, can you show that if you released the VOD movies earlier, that caused an increase in piracy? You start out by saying in this filing, well, that's just unreasonable because nobody releases movies earlier on VOD than on DVD. Except, of course, they do, which you ultimately get to in a footnote. And when you finally buckle down and admit, yeah, some people are releasing these movies early, you say, well, we can't tell where the pirated copies are coming from. Yeah, we can show that there were pirated copies of these movies that were released, but we can't tell where that piracy came from. That's kind of important because one of the big sources of pirated Hollywood movies are the studios themselves. They give out all these DVDs that are promotional copies, and you have ringers in the studios. This stuff leaks like a sieve. So if you're going to say, well, consumers, you need to pay the price in order to see movies early release on VOD, you ought to be able to prove that the pirated copies aren't coming from you, and that giving you a waiver of this VOD stuff would make a difference in how much pirated copies and how much pirated material is out there. But you claim, well, we can't do that because they're not released early even though they are, And though when they are released early, we can't tell where they come from. I'd find that a little more convincing if you couldn't tell me that a pirated Star Trek movie, which is your big centerpiece of evidence about how piracy moves through the internet, if you couldn't trace that back to the hotel video system where it was stolen from. So on the one hand, when you want to show about how pervasive piracy is, you can show with precision where it came from. But when that's a critical piece of evidence, suddenly, yeah, we can't figure it out. I know we have a disagreement over how to use the English language. So just to be clear about a couple of common terms so we don't have any misconceptions. When we say this waiver is going to break the 25 million HD TVs that were sold without the ability to see the MPAA approved VOD early release, what we mean is that people bought this in the expectation that when they paid for content from their cable system, they'd be able to watch it. You're changing the rules on them. We think that's broken. You want to say, oh, but you could still get the same content? Except, of course, you can't, because before I could get all the content, and now I can't. To make it clear what we mean by evidence. Evidence means you actually show that the SOC waiver would make a difference. You do a lot of hand waving and a lot of smoke and mirrors in here about that. You pretend we can't find the information when it's right out there in front of you. You say no one's releasing VOD early enough to make it possible to collect this information, and then you got to acknowledge that they do. And you claim when they do, you can't track the source of the piracy, whether it's coming from you or coming from the VOD, except that when it's convenient, you can narrow down where piracy came from to the precise hotel video system. It's not what I mean by evidence, and I hope the FCC feels the same way.